Have you ever looked around the dinner table and wondered why you felt like a stranger in your own family? Why your parents never understood you? Why your siblings mocked your silence or intensity? Why your dreams were dismissed as delusions? If you're the dark chosen one, this pain isn't random. It's spiritual architecture. It's the universe carving a space in you deep, hollow, raw, so that something eternal can be born through you. I know this pain intimately. I didn't grow up in harmony. I grew up in contrast, and that contrast, that rejection, was the fire that burned away everything that was not truly me. We often believe that families are supposed to be our first home, our first love, our first safety net. But what if you were never meant to be safe? What if you were meant to be forged? You see, the dark chosen one is not dark because they are evil. They are dark because they carry the unseen. While others live on the surface, laughing at sitcoms and chasing approval, we are haunted by questions like, why am I here? Why does suffering exist? What is the truth behind this world? And when you carry that kind of depth, you will disturb the shallow. Families, especially those that are still deeply asleep, will not know how to love what they cannot understand. They will label your silence as arrogance, your independence as rebellion. But the truth is they fear your light, because your light exposes their shadows. It's not your fault, and it's not theirs either. They are just playing the roles assigned for your awakening. You were mistreated so you could learn how to hold power without needing permission. You were misunderstood so you could become a master of inner knowing. You were isolated so you could remember your connection to the divine. And here's the deepest twist. They mistreated you not because they hated you, but because their soul agreed to push you out of the nest. Spiritually, they volunteered. That's how much they love you on a soul level. They agreed to be the villains in your story so you could become the hero. Now, I want to ask you something that will echo in your soul. Who would you be right now if your family had truly accepted you? Would you have still gone inward? Would you have still questioned everything? Would you have still sought truth with that wild hunger? You see it now, don't you? The pain was the portal. Your rejection was your redirection. Your family didn't fail you, they freed you. But freedom doesn't feel like joy in the beginning. It feels like abandonment. It feels like betrayal. That's the paradox of the dark chosen one's path. It begins in shadows, but it leads to light. Think about all the great mystics, prophets, visionaries. How many of them were embraced by their families? How many were called crazy, possessed, dangerous? Almost all. Because when you are here to break generational patterns, you must be willing to be the exile. And exile is sacred. Exile teaches you how to speak to God when no one else will listen. Exile teaches you how to trust the invisible when the visible has abandoned you. Exile teaches you how to see yourself when mirrors have lied to you your whole life. But here's something practical. Stop waiting for your family to change. That's a trap. That's the ego's last trick. If only they saw me, I'd feel whole. No, you are whole. And their blindness is your blessing. It forces you to see yourself. Instead of asking, why don't they love me? Ask, what am I here to love in myself that they never could? Instead of asking, why did they hurt me? Ask, what strength did that pain awaken in me? This is what it means to be a dark chosen one. You are chosen not for comfort, but for transformation. You are chosen not to follow the world, but to remake it. You are chosen not to be loved by them, but to love yourself so deeply that their misunderstanding becomes irrelevant. But let me be real, this path is lonely, terribly lonely. There are nights you'll cry so hard your body shakes. There are days you'll wish you were normal. You'll wish you could go back, blend in, laugh at small talk, pretend you don't see what you see. But you can't, because you were born for this, and nothing less will satisfy you anymore. We live in a world that shames sensitivity, mocks intuition, and fears truth. And yet, you are all three. That's why they shut you out. But what they shut out is exactly what the world needs. So, what do you do now? You forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You forgive because carrying that pain is too heavy for someone destined to fly. You forgive because it's the final act of rebellion, loving yourself enough to let go. And then you walk your path. You learn, you meditate, you create, you channel, you heal. You become the parent you never had, the friend you always needed, the guide your younger self begged for. You become the one you were looking for. And one day, maybe when you least expect it, your family might see you, or they might not. But by then, it won't matter, because you'll have seen yourself, and that will be enough. Now, take a breath, sit with this. Let it burn through the old beliefs like fire through dead grass. Let it awaken something ancient in you. Let me ask you something piercing. What if your greatest spiritual gift was hidden inside your deepest wound? Have you ever noticed how the very things that broke you somehow also built you? It's not a coincidence. The rejection wasn't random. It was strategic. Because when the soul signs up for a mission, the universe must prepare it. And for the dark chosen ones, that preparation often begins with the most intimate betrayal, family rejection. You weren't abandoned because you were weak. You were abandoned because your soul had agreed to awaken without comfort. You were marked not by your wounds, but by your willingness to alchemize them. In spiritual terms, your curse is your calling, meaning the same people who made you feel unworthy were actually serving your highest evolution. Let's go deeper. Think about how your family treated you. Not just what they did, but how it made you feel. The constant invalidation, the emotional neglect, the subtle or overt abuse. All of it was data. All of it was shaping your subconscious, stretching your sensitivity, sharpening your perception. You became hyper-aware. You could feel energy shifts in the room. You could sense lies behind smiles. You could see through masks. That's not trauma, it's training. You were being trained in spiritual perception. While others were taught math and grammar, you were learning how to read souls. That's power. But it comes at a cost. And that cost is innocence. The dark chosen ones don't get to stay naive. We're initiated through pain. We're shaped by silence. We are educated in the language of suffering. You see, rejection from family isn't just emotional, it's metaphysical. When your bloodline pushes you out, it's often because your frequency is higher, your coding is different, your presence is disruptive to ancestral patterns. You're not just the black sheep, you're the breaker of cycles. You're the one who came to end generational curses, and people don't thank you for that. They fight you. They resent you. They project onto you. Because your very existence shows them what they refuse to see in themselves. It's spiritual resistance. You threaten the system they've normalized. And when you threaten a system, it does not gently let go. It attacks. That's why the pain feels so personal. But in truth, it's not about you, it's about what you carry. I want you to understand this clearly. Your family did not reject you because you were defective. They rejected you because you were different. And in a world addicted to sameness, difference is terrifying. Your emotional depth, misunderstood. Your need for solitude, misinterpreted. Your refusal to play their games, seen as rebellion. But all of that was necessary. You had to be different, because only someone different can bring something new. You weren't born to continue their story, you were born to rewrite it. And that rewriting begins with your own healing. That's where the true power is. Let me ask you something that might shake your soul. What if your family's rejection was the universe's protection? What if they couldn't go where you were going? What if their love would have been a distraction from your mission? That's hard to hear, I know. But sometimes love can lull us into mediocrity. We settle for approval. We trade our light for belonging. We dim ourselves to be accepted. But the dark chosen ones don't get that luxury. We are forced to shine in isolation. And through that, we become lighthouses not just for ourselves, but for others walking through storms. And here's the practical truth. You don't need your family's validation to fulfill your purpose. You don't need their apology. You don't need their understanding. What you need is your own permission. Your own inner, yes, your own decision to rise regardless. That's what makes you chosen. Not that you were picked by others, but that you picked yourself. That you dared to keep going when no one clapped. That you chose truth over comfort, healing over hiding, purpose over people-pleasing. That's what sets you apart, and that's why your path is sacred. So, what do you do with all of this? First, you stop trying to fix what's broken in them. That's not your job. You are not their savior. You are not responsible for their awakening. Your only task is to remember who you are and act from that place. Second, you turn the mirror inward. You ask, where have I internalized their voices? Where am I still trying to prove my worth? And then you begin the slow, holy work of releasing that. You build a new narrative. You create your own family through friendships, soul tribe, inner connection. And most of all, you embrace the gift that was hidden in the pain. Because the pain is not just something to survive, it's something to transmute into art, into empathy, into wisdom, into light. Let me leave you with this. You are not broken. You are initiated. You are not lost. You are being led. And the mistreatment you experienced was not your fault, but it was your fuel. Use it. Let it ignite your purpose. Let it refine your soul. Let it remind you that you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to break through. You know what makes the dark chosen ones so powerful? It's not just the pain we've endured, it's what we do with it. While others collapse in suffering, we turn it into gold, into truth, into wisdom. We are alchemists. But no alchemist is born. They're made through fire, through darkness, through rejection. This is the paradox. The very family that wounded you gave you the raw material for your transformation. Their neglect became the silence you filled with inner guidance. Their criticism became the pressure that shaped your voice. Their absence became the sacred space for your divine presence to emerge. But let's be honest, transmutation isn't easy. It's not poetic when you're in it. It's ugly. It's lonely. It's filled with nights where you question if you're actually cursed, if you deserve love at all, if healing is even possible. And in those moments, the ego screams, "Why me?" But the soul whispers, "Because you're ready. Ready to remember, ready to rise, ready to stop living for their approval and start living in your purpose." Because here's the truth, the family that mistreated you can no longer define you unless you let them. And the moment you stop waiting for them to change, that's when you begin to change. Let me ask you something real, something raw. What would your life look like if you stopped needing closure from those who never even opened to you? That question is the doorway, because most of us are still spiritually chained to our family's opinion, still hoping they'll one day get it, still shrinking ourselves to not upset them. But you weren't born to be understood, you were born to be legendary. You were born to break timelines, rewrite karma, and embody frequencies your family never even dared to imagine. And that type of evolution, it will always be misunderstood by those who are still asleep. You have to understand this. Your soul chose this assignment, not because it's easy, but because it's sacred. You weren't sent to repeat patterns, you were sent to end them. That's why your life feels so intense. That's why your wounds cut so deep. That's why your inner battles are so brutal. Because you're not just healing for you. You're healing for 7 generations before you and 7 after. And when you become the alchemist, when you take the poison of your upbringing and turn it into the medicine of your purpose, you break the spell. But how does this actually work in real life? It starts with presence, with awareness, with catching yourself in the act of people-pleasing and asking, whose voice is this in my head? Is it your mother's disapproval? Your father's silence? Your siblings' condescension? Trace it, name it, own it, and then release it. Not with hate, with compassion. Because forgiveness isn't saying what they did was okay. Forgiveness is saying, I'm done letting your story define my identity. That's power. That's alchemy. Then comes the embodiment. You stop waiting. You start creating. You build the life they said was impossible. You write the book, launch the brand, move to the city, start the healing practice. Whatever your soul has been whispering to you in the dark, you do it. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that you were always right about who you are. You align with your higher self so deeply that eventually your past becomes just a reference point, not the whole story. And something magical happens here. You begin to attract your soul family. The ones who see you without explanation. The ones who hold space without judgment. The ones who remind you that you were never too much, you were always just too rare. And maybe one day, your biological family will come around. Maybe they'll apologize. Maybe they won't. But by then, you'll be so rooted in your truth that their response won't shake you, because you'll have become your own sanctuary, your own mirror, your own source. That's the essence of the dark chosen one. You don't just survive the pain. You become the living proof that pain can be sacred, that rejection can be redirection, that suffering can be the seed of sovereignty. So I want to leave you with this. Your family's mistreatment was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your legend. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be light. And sometimes, light is blinding to those who live in the dark. But don't dim. Shine louder. Walk bolder. Love deeper. And trust this truth: you were never sent here to fit in with your family. You were sent here to free them by freeing yourself first. There comes a moment on the path of every dark chosen one when we stop asking why it happened and we start asking what it gave us. That's the final trial, not escaping the pain, not avoiding the wound, but embracing it so completely that it becomes power. The rejection from your family? That wasn't a mistake. It was the divine sculptor chipping away everything false so your truth could be revealed. And this is the secret nobody tells you: when you finally accept the pain, not as punishment but as preparation, you unlock the gift you've been carrying all along. Let's stop pretending that our families were supposed to be perfect. They were never meant to be the finish line. They were the starting point, the trigger, the spark. And if you're honest, would you have begun your spiritual journey if they had loved you exactly how you wanted? Would you have awakened? Would you have gone searching for something deeper? Probably not. Pain cracked you open. And in that opening, the light got in. That's the cosmic irony. The people who hurt you the most were unknowingly your spiritual midwives. They pushed you into the wilderness where you would meet your true self. But this wilderness is not a place of despair. It is the sacred school of the chosen. In that isolation, you learned how to hear your own voice. In that silence, you learned how to commune with the divine. In that loneliness, you discovered your capacity for unconditional love, not just for others, but finally for yourself. And once you taste that love, that real, unshakable self-love, you become untouchable. Not because you don't feel pain anymore, but because pain no longer defines you. It becomes your teacher, not your master. Now here's the real challenge. Can you bless the people who broke you? Not out of weakness, not out of spiritual bypassing, but from a place of deep power. Can you look at the ones who rejected you and say, "Thank you for not seeing me, because it forced me to see myself"? That's liberation. That's mastery. That's the moment you stop being a victim and start becoming the oracle. And you can only do that when you realize this whole journey wasn't about them. It was about you, about your soul remembering its mission. Let me ask you the most important question of your life. Are you willing to let go of needing their love so you can finally embody your own? Because that's the threshold. That's the line in the sand. You can't walk into your divine purpose still dragging the chains of childhood approval. You must choose. You must say yes to your path, even if your family never says yes to you. That is the price of true freedom. That is the cost of becoming who you really are. And once you cross that threshold, the world begins to shift. You notice synchronicities. You meet others who speak your language, not the language of politeness, but the language of soul. You create art that heals. You speak words that awaken. You walk into rooms and shift the energy just by being there. Why? Because you've become the embodiment of transmutation. You've turned rejection into radiance, and people can feel it. Without saying a word, you become a living permission slip for others to liberate themselves. This is the gift. This is what the pain was for. Not just your healing, but your radiance, your leadership, your divine presence. And when you stand in that truth, something miraculous happens. Your family may still not understand you, but you no longer need them to. You've become your own mother, your own father, your own home. You've transcended the need for external validation. You've become a soul sovereign. And in a world full of people chasing approval, you've become the rarest thing of all, free.